I'm joined by our viewers on ESPN, Al Bernstein and Scott Walker, here at the Palace in Auburn Hills. Mike Tyson, a victor in a bizarre fashion as Andrew Golota quits before the beginning of this third round. When you look at this fight, summing it up, obviously Golota, odd for him to, but he has a history of quitting before.
Yeah, he does. Of course, we saw him against Michael Grant quit in the 10th round, but that was a little different because Grant had punished him, at least in that round. In this case, Mike Tyson knocking Golota down in the first round with the big overhand right. But in the second round, Golota was able to hold his own and was not punished nearly as much as you would expect the fighter to be for him to quit after the second round. And because of a very faulty game plan by Golota and apparently a lack of fortitude, Mike Tyson ends up getting the win in this fight.
We will find out shortly if this is the last we've seen of Mike Tyson. Was this a different Tyson we saw today?
Yeah, it really was. I mean, he certainly didn't have the bull rush attitude that he's had in his last three fights. He did come in and was hit with some decent uppercuts by Andrew Golota, and that kind of stalled his momentum momentarily, was able to land the big overhand right. But this was a Tyson who definitely was not as sharp as we had seen, at least in the Francis fight. And, of course, Savarese just dominated earlier. But this is a different Mike Tyson. We have to acknowledge that. And as I said, if David Tua and Lennox Lewis were looking at this fight, they're licking their chops.
We will come back on ESPN News with more coverage after this commercial break. Interesting things from Detroit. We'll be back in a moment.
Sterling. And he's some kind of boxing icon, even if it's a negative type. And boxing is a personality-driven sport now, because nobody knows who's champion or how many weight divisions there are or how many governing bodies really sanction anything. And he is one of boxing's biggest personalities, whether it be for good or bad. So clearly people are interested. And the other reason they're interested is because we know that because of his marketability, Mike Tyson is always a heartbeat away from getting a world championship fight. Now is the time for that. So it's put up or shut up time. If he wants to eat Lennox Lewis's children, this is a time to begin munching.
And he does have two-fisted punching power. That's the last thing to go, Al. Of course, the hand speed isn't there anymore, which is one of the things that made him so spectacularly special. But let's talk about Holyfield for a second, because we know no matter what happens against Lewis, no matter what Holyfield does, the names Tyson and Holyfield, they're always going to be able to make money together. So you figure Tyson's good for at least the Lennox Lewis fight, and then a Holyfield fight at some point, whether or not it's for the title, whether or not they're really beating world-class fighters at that time.
Well, if he's going to fight Holyfield, it will have to be prior to him fighting the Lewis-Tua winner, because by the time he gets done fighting either either Lennox Lewis or David Tua, the public's not going to care to see him and Evander Holyfield in the ring again. And that would be, in my opinion, a fascinating act by Mike Tyson if he were to go try and fight Holyfield first. In my opinion, that would be an admission by him that he doesn't think he can handle either Tua or Lewis.
Holyfield has his number, Al, but what about Ikebae? All right, I'm not supposed to talk about Ikebae Ibuchi right now. Al, Ikebae Ibuchi, oh, this would be a moot point. What's going on? Okay, all right, Jay, take the next question.
Al, all we talk about sometimes for boxing is the sport and the sanctity of the sport and how much it gets embarrassed over and over. Luckily, there was no mayhem in Motown this time around. No one bit anybody, no one hit anyone below the belt. From that standpoint, does boxing try to say, hey, this wasn't as bad as it could have been, and can it kind of pat itself on the back after a night like this?
I don't know about patting itself on the back, because clearly Andrew Golota didn't show a warrior spirit. Mike Tyson wasn't a great fighter, but maybe our expectations of this evening were so low that the fact that there wasn't a riot, the fact that nobody got disqualified, and the fact that there wasn't mayhem is good enough. And to me, it's good enough because we have good things to look ahead to in the future of boxing, in the near future. The Tua Lewis fight, which I think is wonderful, the Vargas Trinidad fight, which you guys alluded to, those are coming up. Those are, I think, excellent showcases of four excellent fighters. So as a result of that, this is, we always, every time there's something boxing, we say, oh, the sport, can the sport handle it? Can it not handle it? Well, each of these situations have to be taken each as a separate item. You can't link them all together. And this is a separate night from all those other nights. But yes, it could have been worse tonight.
Yeah, Al, and you know what? You just alluded to it yourself. Boxing's had a banner year in 2000 after an abysmal 98 and 99. Do you think that the fans are now getting hipper than the media? I mean, I'm very curious to see what the pay-per-view does in this Tyson fight and compare it to, let's say, Vargas and Trinidad, which is not going to generate the same kind of mainstream media coverage, but it's one that hardcore boxing fans are salivating for.
Well, I think this fight will end up doing pretty well in numbers for pay-per-view. A lot of people were interested in this for a variety of reasons, whether they wanted to see a train wreck or they just were intrigued by the matchup of these two men. So I think it'll do pretty well in numbers. How well the Vargas-Trinidad fight does and how well Tua Lewis does will depend, in fact, on how educated not only hardcore boxing fans are, but also casual boxing fans, and very much how well we all cover those matches, and those are matches that deserve, I think, the proper kind of attention.
Alrighty, Al and Max, thanks very much. We certainly appreciate both your time. And
pleasure having me today.
And Al will be back a little bit later on in the program. Again, if you're just tuning in, here's the result. Mike Tyson defeats Andrew Golota. It's a third-round TKO. Mike Tyson now 49-3 overall with 43 wins by knockout. And you see there on the graphic, 37-0 in non-title bouts. Of course, this a non-title bout. It was scheduled to go 10 rounds and only lasted just beyond the second round. And you want to keep it locked here on ESPN News because in a little while, we will head back out to Michigan for the post-fight news conferences. Mike Tyson and Andrew Golota. We are anxiously awaiting to hear from both of those fighters. You want to keep it right here on ESPN News.
Mike Tyson, last 7 wins, a combined 18 rounds. They're short, but they're not sweet. He continues to be a freak show. More on this show when we return.
All right, welcome back to ESPN News.
Keith Russell with J.W. Stewart. We got our dukes up.
Been that kind of night so far. Hey, Mike Tyson has beaten Andrew Golota. Let's set it right out now to Scott Walker at the Palace of Auburn Hills.
Thank you, gentlemen. And we're still waiting after this bizarre turn of events as Mike Tyson wins in the third-round TKO. Whether or not this was Tyson's last fight, his 52nd professional fight, as he said this week, this could have been his last. With the answers, hopefully, will be Al Bernstein with his trainer, Tommy Brooks. Al?
I am here with Tommy Brooks, the trainer of Mike Tyson. And Tommy, Mike Tyson was able to get it done with the big overhand right in round 1 that knocked Andrew Golota down, and then Golota quit after the second round. Were you surprised that he quit?
Yes, I was surprised, and no, I wasn't surprised. Yeah. You know, I was surprised that I thought that he would give it a better shot than what he did. Anything could happen in a fight. Mike is a tremendous puncher, as everybody knows, you know, and Andrew just, I guess he thought that there was a no-win situation for him. He tried to say something about a headbutt or something, you know, but from the replay that I saw, it was clearly a right hand right on the chin.
Do you think that cut came from the overhand right that or one of the overhand rights that Tyson landed?
Oh, well, Mike landed a number of right hands and a number of hooks also, so, I mean, it could have been any one of those shots.
Were you a little surprised, as I was, that Andrew Golota had a game plan that basically involved him throwing a lot of left hooks against Tyson, which is really a recipe for disaster against Tyson, who is a left hook artist?
Well, the guy's in there trying to make a living for his family. You know, that's the best I can say. You know,
you're a diplomat, aren't you?
The guy. But on the serious side, though, I think that he needs to get some help psychologically. Overcome this fear or whatever it is that he has.
Is it a fear of success with Andrew Golota, do you think? I know he's not your fighter, but, I mean, as you observe him.
I think it's a combination of things because the guy has all the talent in the world, Al, and I've seen him in some fights, like with a couple of fights with Bo. You know, yeah. he was way ahead on points. The fight with Grant, he was ahead, you know, and I said initially that he's a front runner, and he's proven it to be that way. You know, what I mean by a front runner is as long as he's out ahead on points, you know, he'll stay with the fight. But when it starts going south on him, he'll just fold his tents. Let's talk a little bit about your fighter, Mike Tyson. It wasn't a brilliant performance, but he got done what he needed to get done. How would you grade him? Well, I'd give Mike a B on it. We had been in camp too long. Our first fight, well, the fight was scheduled to fight. We were scheduled to fight on September the 9th, I think it was, and then they pushed the fight back to this one. We've been training. We've been in the camp since July, the end of July. So Mike is just tired. You know, he's tired of hearing me. He's tired of looking at me. You know, and you know, you can only train for so long, you know, before you get bored with it. But could he have been a little overtrained? I wouldn't say overtrained. I'd say just tired and bored with it, you know. Yeah. And but I gave him, like I said, a B plus, you know. Well, obviously, you were surprised, as we all were, when he suggested that maybe he wasn't going to fight again after this. What is next for him, and will he fight again? I have no idea. I haven't spoke to Mike about it. imagine that he'll tell Shelley, and we'll get lined up on a date, and then I'll go to work on an opponent.
You think you will fight again?
I'm hoping so. Like I said, you know, as I told you yesterday, you know, I signed on to win the title, and this isn't the title, so I think we got another couple of fights coming.
All right, Tommy, congratulations on the win this evening.
Thank you, brother.
Tommy Brooks, one of the classiest guys and best trainers in boxing. Let's go back to the studio.
Gentlemen, thank you. Those will be the best answers you get from about Mike Tyson's future. They have just announced that neither Tyson nor Golota will answer questions from the press tonight. The only people you'll hear from, Shelley Finkel and Tommy Brooks. Interesting things going on here in Detroit as, again, there is so much talk about Mike Tyson and his possible future. And right now, we won't hear from Mike Tyson. That's it for now from Detroit. We'll send it now back to the studio.
Thank you, Scott. That's interesting. Tyson, Golota, neither one will say anything. They won't be at the news conference. We'll hear from their trainers as soon as they step up to the podium. Post-fight news conferences right here on ESPN News. We'll bring it to you as soon as it becomes available. For those just tuning in, Mike Tyson defeats Andrew Golota in Detroit. A third-round TKO. Tyson knocked Golota down in the first round. Golota did not come out for the third round, but because he completed the second round, it goes down as a third-round TKO. Now, we won't hear Golota at the news conference, but we will hear from Andrew Golota, who's standing by with Al Bernstein.
I am here with Andrew Golota. And, Andrew, I know everyone's wondering why you decided not to fight after the third round, or after the second round. Why so?
I got a problem in my eye, you know. I got a cut over my eye. I felt it, not dizziness, and I couldn't fight. That's what it is.
Some had said that you thought you were butted in that eye. Is that what you believe happened?
I didn't thought. I know that I was twice. I mean, actually, it was twice or three times. You know, I really had a head butted, and the referee did not respond. You know, pretty much well. He didn't warn him, which was unbelievable. You know, everybody says I'm the dirty fighter. You know, in this creation. You know, I don't know what happened.
You were down in the first round. I have to say, one thing about your strategy that was surprising to me, instead of using your jab and your straight right hand, which are your best weapons, you really were throwing a lot of left hooks with him, which part of what opened you up to the overhand right. And I'm surprised that was kind of your game plan, or was that just something that ended up happening?
He was open for left hook, you know. I was a little bit late with the right, but he was open for that.
How disappointing is this for you? And I don't know, how do you feel about the disappointment your fans and other people may feel?
What I can say, I just want to say sorry for all my friends, you know, who count on me. And what can I do? I have to give myself, you know, heavy thought about boxing forward, you know.
Are you thinking about not fighting again?
Maybe, I don't know.
All right, Andrew. Good luck next time, if there is a next time. Andrew Golota, we'll send it back to the studio.
Thank you, Al. After the fight on Saturday night, make that Friday night, Tyson now is a perfect 37-0 all-time in non-title bouts with 33 knockouts, including 18 of the first-round variety. These fights have lasted an average of exactly 3 rounds. When a belt is on the line, Tyson is 12-3 with 10 KOs.
So much more to come here on ESPN News. We'll go back to the Palace of Auburn Hills. Mike Tyson has beaten Andrew Golota. Much more post-fight reaction coming up. Keep it here. All righty, back here on ESPN News. Mike Tyson has beaten Andrew Golota. It is a third-round TKO because Golota gave up just before the third round started. Al Bernstein is right now with Shelley Finkel, who is Mike Tyson's manager.
Thank you very much. Shelley, this was a winning night for your fighter. He was able to get the job done, and he did it in fairly emphatic fashion. Were you happy with his performance?
I was very happy. The things that I was looking for was a little different than most other people. When they were breaking, I saw he had total control. The ref even came back after to thank them. Golota was excessively holding. He didn't try to pull. He just said, ref, okay, break. Went back to the corner. When he dropped him, he went to the neutral corner. He had it under control. I felt another round, and he would start, instead of throwing the overhand rights, would start picking it up from underneath, and it would have been over. And I think Golota realized that.
Golota did complain about headbutts. Did you see anything that you thought were intentional?
Well, first of all, being my myself. I didn't see any, of course. But
objectively speaking,
right.
but that's okay. Your opinion counts.
No doubt that first right hand broke up there. Nothing to do with getting in close. And I think Golota was just taking too much punishment. He was fighting, what's his name, Al Cerdo. You know, he put up more fight with Cerdo to not fight than to fight Mike.
That's probably true. Now, obviously, Mike surprised all of us this week by suggesting that this might be his last fight, and you may have been a little surprised by it, though not that much. What do you think will be the case here now?
I think he's sticking to that at this point. We'll see how he feels a week or two away from it. He has a love-hate with boxing. He loves it. He loves the media attention. He hates a lot of the things that are written about him, and at some points it just became too much, and I think that he needs just a little breathing room, which he wasn't getting in Detroit.
Can I ask you, is there any way...
No, you can't. No.
Okay, well, I won't.
Go ahead.
Is there any way that, as a group, and you are very media savvy, you're very savvy about just about everything that goes on in boxing, is there any way to get him to function in this environment a little bit easier, given the fact that it's not all his doing? Is there any way to get him to function in this environment so it can be a little more enjoyable for him, so that he might find a way to get in the ring and apply his craft?
Well, what I'm saying is not applying to you, but there are certain people who, because of the history with Mike, don't give an inch, even when Mike tries. And I, at the beginning, said, Mike, look, try this, try that. And then he would come back and say, see the shit shell? He says, I try it, and this. And in his mind, he was trying. But there's certain things that you carry baggage. You carry baggage from the past. I think there's some opportunity that if he wants to come back and he's enjoying it, and I think when he reviews the tape, he'll see, look, I did this wrong, but boy, look what I did here, look what I did there. I was able to slip punches. I was throwing a little bit wide to right, but I was getting closer, and I think he'll be happy.
If he does come back, we would have to assume he wants to fight the winner of Lewis Tua next.
I would assume so. He might want to fight Holyfield and the winner of Lewis and Tua. I don't think he's intimidated by any of them, and I believe that the Tyson that came in today would have beat the Holyfield that beat him. The thing is, he trained for this, which he wasn't training then, but we'll see.
Okay, thank you very much. Shelley Finkel, the boxing advisor of Mike Tyson. We have to throw things back to the studio right now.
Artiel, thanks very much. Good job. Tyson says this is his last fight. We'll have to wait and see if Tyson ever steps inside the ring again. Here are some other past heavyweight boxing greats and what they did in their last fights. You notice Muhammad Ali lost to Trevor Burbeck. Ironically, Tyson beat Burbeck for his first heavyweight title in 1986. And we have just learned that Andrew Golota will be attending the post-fight news conference. So as soon as he gets up to the podium, we will send it back to the Palace of Auburn Hills.
Tyson apparently isn't talking, but we're not done talking about him. More on the throwdown in Motown when ESPN News continues.
Friday night at the fights, Mike Tyson defeats Andrew Golota as a third-round TKO at the Palace of Auburn Hills. Golota actually boxed 2 rounds and then quit before coming out for the third round. He has a history of doing that. So Mike Tyson goes on to win. He's now 37-0 in non-title bouts. In just a few moments, Andrew Golota, even though he's a quitter, at least he's going to be at the news conference. Mike Tyson, who ends up winning, probably won't be there. But you want to keep it here on ESPN News. Listen to what Andrew Golota has to say. We're back in just a minute.
From ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, this is ESPN News.
Keith Russell with J.W. Stewart. As we step inside the show, we also step inside the ring.
That's right. Friday night's all right for fighting, so we start with maybe the end of Mike Tyson's career. Tyson versus Andrew Golota in a non-title heavyweight fight. Late in the first round, Tyson knocks Golota down with a big right to the temple. You see the gash opened up right on the left side of Golota's head. And he would not do much after that. He completed the second round, but did not answer the bell for the third round, so it goes as a third-round TKO, as Golota's corner says. No mas. Tyson now 37-0 in non-title bouts, 49-3 with 43 KOs overall. On the flip side, Andrew Golota falls to 36-5. He also quit in the Michael Grant fight in November of '99. So what does Golota have to say for himself?
The crowd is stunned. They can't believe it. What happened?
First of all, it wasn't my day today, but I got a headbutt. A referee didn't respond pretty much well as he's supposed to.
But you're a warrior, Andrew. You're a fighter. But you're a fighter that the crowd pays.
I got dizziness in my head. That's it.
What made you dizzy? Was it that first knockdown? What about the knockdown? Did you really recover from that knockdown at the end of the first round?
Actually, I was just asleep. You know, I hasn't been hit very well. You know, just I was sleep on the down, and then that's it. I stood up.
What do you say to the people who are driving home now? The people who spent the $49.95 for the pay-per-view, the people who were rooting for you, your fans and boxing fans all over the world, at this great and grave disappointment to the sport?
Listen, boxing is a very, very difficult sport, you know. And I'm sorry for all my fans, you know, who count on me, you know. I just did not have my day today.
Andrew, do you want to fight again? Do you want to continue with the sport you've been in since a very young man, since a young teenager?
I have to give myself very heavy thought, you know, about it. So I don't know. I have a reputation as a dairy fighter, you know, and this particular reason, you know, somebody headbutt me, you know, and just, you know, and nobody took care of this, you know. He didn't have hard warning, you know.
All right, a very distraught and upset Andrew Golota, as are most people.
Well, that's what one Mike Tyson punch will do to you. That's very scary. After Friday's fight, Tyson now a perfect 37-0 all-time in non-title bouts with 33 knockouts, including 18 of the first-round variety. We're going to send you out right now to the Palace of Auburn Hills. Tyson's trainer, Tommy Brooks, at the mic.
Mike has the potential to be the champion again. That's why I signed on. I signed on to train the champion of the world, the undisputed champion of the world. He has all the potential to do so, but if he doesn't want to fight, I mean, that's on Mike, you know. I'm behind him 100%.
Yeah, but...
Right. Wait. Well...
That's good, Mike.
Right. There's, first of all, everything is in a time frame. If Mike decides to take and not fight and come back in 5 years, it can't be Lewis or Tua. But everything being equal, it's the winner of that or Holyfield, then the winner of that.
Hey, this is for Gary. Where does this put Andrew now? I mean, can he even be marketable after this fight, after what he did tonight?
And Andrew's got to, he told me in the dressing room, he wants to rethink his career himself. He doesn't know if he wants to go forward. It's a very disappointing performance. He quit. He said he was dizzy, and that's the reason that he couldn't continue. He told that to the doctor. He told that to Al and I. But as far as going forward, I think now certainly isn't the time. It's premature. He's got to rethink whether he wants to be a fighter or not, and I think that's the major question.
Yes, Shelley, do you think a fight Tyson against against Klitschko is possible in Europe?
It doesn't make any sense for us. Klitschko is only big in Europe, and the USDD is the main source of revenue. It just doesn't generate here. He's just big. Well, I'll cross that bridge when I have to. Right now, Mike's not fighting, so I'm not even thinking about that. And before the Klitschko, I have two other options I'll be pursuing. I just told you.
Can I ask both Shelley and Tommy, do you want to see believe in your heart of hearts?
I'm sorry?
Sorry, here, Shelley.
Oh, hi.
Do you believe in your heart of hearts that Mike will not fight again? Will you try to actively talk to him about his future and find out where he's going? Do you actually believe he won't fight again?
The first thing is to give Mike some breathing room, which I will. And then, within the next week or so, him and I will reach out for each other. That always happens. And at that point, I'll see if what he feels today is how he still feels. And if he still feels that, then we'll discuss what else he wants to do. People change careers.
If he decides to fight, Shelley, after November 11th, Lennox Lewis is more than willing to make the fight.
Is HBO?
I don't know. We'll sit down and we'll try to work it out.
Okay.
Well, Tua definitely is on board for everything.
Not after November 11th.
Al, you sound Al.
Yeah.
Al, you sound extremely disillusioned. What is that about? Why are you so disillusioned with the whole fighting game?
Well, because I think the fighters today are half of fags. They get too much money. Listen, I'm going to give you a quick example. Two fighters come into a gym, and they're both broke. And they're boxing each other, and one guy gets hit with a good punch, and he goes back to the corner and says, I'll get him this round, the son of a B, you know. Same fighter, same two fighters. One has $500,000 in his kick. He's got his girlfriend waiting downstairs in his car, and he gets hit with the same punch. You know what he thinks? Wow, I'll probably have a scar on my face. Wow, Jesus, you know. I wonder, he ain't thinking about getting back to this here guy. They're not hungry no more. Everybody's got too much money in their pockets. You got to be hungry in this business. Yeah, give the money to charity if they want to give it. Give it to the poor people.
Shelley, how many times before has Mike ever said to you or to anyone that that was it, that he was done? Is this, I know after the Orland Norris fight he said he was done. Is this something he does all the time?
No. And, you know, he said after the Orland Norris, I don't think I want this anymore. Yesterday he was pretty emphatic. And he doesn't do this often, but let me just say something. There's very few people in this room who are on the other side of some writings or other things that really can hurt someone. So it's very hard for someone to understand, and I'm not saying whether he's at fault or not, I'm just saying put that aside. The pressure and the good that come with being Mike Tyson is overwhelming, and the bad hurts more than you can imagine. And at points, I think he just says to himself, hey, this is too much. And
Shelley.
Yes, sir.
You never box in your life.
You're wrong.
So don't try to, whether you're a four-round fighter or you're fighting for the world title, you got the same feeling, you understand? Every 4-round kid out there thinks he can beat the world champion. Otherwise, he won't be in the business.
Al, we're not talking about the same thing.
Well, what are you talking about?
The press.
The press, I was talking about.
I'll help you, Shelley. Well, the press hasn't fought either.
Right. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you
Go
guys
ahead, Shelley.
think.
No, that's it.
I just got a
Mike
report that Andrew did go, which hospital, Jay, was it? The Pontiac Oakland Hospital.
Yeah, can I say something? You know, it seems like I'm hard on my fighter, but yeah, I'm so disappointed in the sense that I know, and he'll vouch for me, Lou Duva down there, the guy's got the ability. He's got so much talent out there that isn't funny. I know he could do it. I know he could beat up just about anybody. You know, and so it's hard. It's kind of hard for me to swallow.
What's it? Well, first of all, I have no idea what Tommy's feeling. You know, Rich. I think I had some feeling about it. I didn't expect it yesterday, but. You know, it wasn't like, whoa. I was surprised. He told Al Bernstein first, and that was what happened.
real quickly, let me just tell you about the replay that'll be shown on Showtime. It'll actually be 2 nights back-to-back, Friday, October 27th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and Saturday, October 28th, 11:30 p.m. Eastern and Pacific Time. Any other questions for anybody up here? All right, thank you again for coming out. See you next time.
Okay, more entertainment there, I think, than the fight itself. Tyson says this is his last fight. We'll have to wait and see if Tyson ever steps inside the ring again. And here are some other past heavyweight boxing greats and what they did in their last fights. Notice Muhammad Ali lost to Trevor Burbeck. Ironically, Tyson beat Burbeck for his first heavyweight title in 1986.
I'm Cindy Beaumont, and this is CNN. Headline Sports. Another controversial ending to a Mike Tyson fight. This time it wasn't Iron Mike's fault. Andrew Golota quit just before the 3rd round and handed Tyson his 49th heavyweight victory.
Tyson looked pretty good. The fact that Golota went down and quit, it's the end of his career.
He shoved the mouthpiece in his fighter's mouth and Golota spitting it out. Tyson's trainer, Tommy Brooks, tried to be generous.
The guy's in there trying to make a living for his family. You know, that's the best I can say. You know,
you're a diplomat, aren't you?
You know, the guy. You know, but on a serious side, though, I think that he needs to get some help psychologically to overcome this fear or whatever it is that he has.
Is it a fear of success with Andrew Golota, do you think? I know he's not your fighter, but, I mean, as you observe him.
I think it's a combination of things because the guy has all the talent in the world.
I'm so disappointed in the sense that I know, and he'll vouch for me, Lou Duva down there, the guy's got the ability. He's got so much talent out there that isn't funny. I know he could do it. I know he could beat just about anybody. You know, and so it's hard. It's kind of hard for me to swallow.
As far as Tyson goes, since the infamous ear-biting episode, he's kind of cleaned up his act, at least in the ring. None of his last 5 fights have gone past the 5th round. In fact, the last time Tyson won a fight which went past 5 rounds was against Razor Ruddock way back in '91.
To the bell for the 3rd round and leaving Mike Tyson an unfulfilled victor. Golota's been down this path before, quitting in the 10th round of a fight he was winning last November against Michael Grant. Our Nick Charles catches up with Golota's trainer Al Serta, the man who couldn't coax a dazed Golota out of his corner.
He was a little dizzy, but he was okay. I thought he was okay. He wanted to quit. He wanted me to stop the fight, but, you know, I kind of forced him out there. I told him, you're going to win this fight. And he, you know, if anybody could have beat Tyson tonight, it would have been him, you know. But he went out there in the 2nd round. I thought he won the 2nd round. He was doing fairly good in the fight. He didn't even get started. Believe me, he didn't even get started. He had a lot of guns to come out, but I don't know. It just wasn't his night.
Did he freeze?
Well, you can say that. I would say yes, so yeah.
I saw you, and you were visibly upset with him when he quit.
Oh yeah, you know, and he was trying while he was there, but the opportunity presented itself when the round ended, and he just didn't want to go out anymore.
Tyson took his heart away?
You know, he rocked Tyson in that round. He buckled his knees and everything. And, you know, if anybody could have beat Tyson tonight, it would have been him. He had a hell of a shot to beat him, believe me.
Another dissatisfying finish here, this time at Auburn Hills. Thank you, El Serta.
All right, thanks, guys. We're going to have more from the Palace of Auburn Hills coming up a little bit later on. We'll have insight and analysis on the way. Also still to come.
This will go down as Mike Tyson's 4th consecutive win in a decision, but believe me, this will be known for what Andrew Golota did in surrendering this bout to Mike Tyson. We still do not know specifically about Mike Tyson's future. He did not speak to the media about that future. What's in Golota's future is a trip to the hospital. He did go to the hospital after this fight, but not before summing up his day in what proved to be a big understatement.
First of all, it wasn't my day today, but got a headbutt. A referee didn't respond pretty much well as he's supposed to.
I was surprised that I thought that he would give it a better shot than what he did. Anything could happen in a fight. Mike is a tremendous puncher, as everybody knows, you know, and Andrew just, I guess he thought that there was a no-win situation for him. he tried to say something about a headbutt or something, you know. But from the replay that I saw, it was clearly a right hand right on the chin.
No doubt that first right hand broke up there, nothing to do with getting in close. And I think Golota was just taking too much punishment.
I had said prior to the fight, two guys are going to get in this ring tomorrow night, and one's going to have a pants on and one's going to have a skirt. I wind up with the skirt.
Al Bernstein joins me now. And Al, that was one of the kinder things that Certo said about his fighter. They seem to have given up on him. Is that the key cue for the rest of us?
Well, you know, we saw the full Monty of all the psychological and emotional frailties of Andrew Golota, and Al Certo's comment might be a little insensitive, but clearly they were very, very disappointed in what their man did, as well they should be, because he really let a lot of people down here. He had a decent second round in this fight and really was not out of this fight by any stretch of the imagination, but clearly he's a man who's afraid of success, a guy who simply cannot deal with the emotional turmoil that goes on inside him when he's inside these major fights.
As we're looking at this, again, Mike Tyson's performance will be sort of lost in this. The taste people thought it was pretty good. Do you agree with that?
Well, you know, Tommy Brooks, who I usually agree with, who's a fine trainer and Mike Tyson's trainer, gave him a B. I don't know if I'd give him a B, maybe a C+. Clearly, it's not the same Tyson that we had seen even in the 3 fights previous to this. He was a little slower. He certainly fought a more controlled pace, didn't have the real good hand speed and the aggression that we would have expected to see in this fight. But what he did do, as Shelley Finkel, his boxing advisor, pointed out, was fight a clean fight. He broke when he was told to, and despite the fact that there were allegedly a couple of headbutts in there, it was not a blatantly illegal performance by Mike Tyson. So that part was good.
When you look at his future, and this is going to be the question that people will ask until he finally decisively says what he's going to do, what do you see from it?
Well, so far today, he is sticking to what he said yesterday, that he might not want to fight again. Now, if he does, we talked to Gary Shaw, the promoter from Main Events, which is Lewis's promoter, and we talked to Danny Goosen, who's the promoter for David too, and of course, they're fighting on November 11th. Both of them said their man would love to fight Mike Tyson, and in the case of Lewis, it's a very tough thing to make happen because of differences between Showtime, which promotes Tyson, and HBO, which promotes Lewis. But Gary Shaw said they would do everything in their power to make that fight happen. And he said, and so did Dan Goosen, part of the reason is both Tu and Lewis absolutely believe they can beat Mike Tyson. And Gary Shaw said today, if this Tyson fought Lewis, he would be knocked out in 1 round. Of course, he's Lewis's promoter, but still, they think they can beat him.
So they both think they can beat him. The big question right now is, will they have the chance? We will see in the next few weeks as Mike Tyson considers his future. Al Bernstein has more with Andrew Golota later in the show. But for now, we'll send it now back to J.W. Stewart.
Gentlemen, thanks very much. After Friday's fight, Tyson now a perfect 37-0 all-time in non-title bouts with 33 knockouts, including 18 of the first-round variety. These fights have lasted an average of exactly 3 rounds. When a belt is on the line, Tyson is 12-3 with 10 knockouts. And as Scott Walker mentioned, you want to stay tuned here to ESPN News, because later on in the show, Al Bernstein will speak with Andrew Golota.
15,000 fight fans should have known better going to a Mike Tyson fight, but it was Andrew Golota providing the controversy this time, quitting just before the 3rd round. Iron Mike wins his 49th heavyweight bout.
I trained too much for the fight, it happens, today I felt, wrong. Something was wrong with me.
This is a presentation of CNN Sports Illustrated.
Coming up, he was going to be protecting his ears, and he was going to be protecting his groin. Down and dirty, Tyson Golota. And
some business to take care of in Michigan, I'm afraid to say.
Yes, a little bit of a boxing match, and we do mean just a little bit between two of the sport's most controversial names. Admit it, you wanted to watch this fight for no other reason than to see who flipped out first. The ear-biting, post-bell punching Mike Tyson, or the king of the crotch shot, Andrew Golota. Like auto racing, there was a bit of a maybe there'll be a car crash mentality, but apparently not quite enough of one. Now, I don't mean to be skeptical here. Okay, I actually do mean to be skeptical. But what better way to sell tickets? Just days ago, there were thousands of good seats left, and to boost pay-per-view sales than to announce that this would be Mike Tyson's final fight. Well, to the Palace at Auburn Hills for what may or may not have been Tyson's family, but it probably was Golota's final fight for quite a while. 28 seconds left in the 1st round. Tyson connecting with the hard overhand right. And 10 seconds later, down goes Golota. A lot more the same in the second. Tyson having his way with him, backs him up with the right, then the left and a quick right. And right before the third round begins, Golot's trainer tries to shove his mouthpiece in, get him right back out there, but Golota says no. He quits, runs away. The crowd goes crazy, as you can see, pelting him. Mike Tyson, angry, walks right back in, didn't speak to anyone immediately after the match. So once again, a heavyweight bout ends in controversy, although this time through no fault of Mike Tyson's. He was a gentleman. Tyson improves to 49-3 following the technical knockout. This not the first time Golota's just quit. Last November, he was winning in a bout against Michael Grant when he quit after being knocked down in the 10th round. Our Nick Childs has more from Auburn Hills.
With Andrew Golota, who went 6 minutes and 2 rounds with Mike Tyson, why did you stop after 2, Andrew?
I got headbutts. I got cut in my eye. I got problem with the eye. Isn't this not dizziness? No, that's why I couldn't fight anymore. I don't know.
Did you feel that the referee had allowed this to happen and this thing was going to go down the drain and they had lost control?
I don't know. He didn't really know respond as he's supposed to. No, he didn't warn him. I got headbutts several times, you know, and he didn't respond. Everybody didn't think, and I'm a bitter fighter, you know. In this case, you know, I don't know what happened.
So you feel you're the victim here?
What can you say? You know, I love the fight, you know.
You disappointed a lot of people. How disappointed are you in yourself? This was your chance.
I have to not give myself heavy thought about the boxing anymore. You know, I trained too much for this fight. You know, it happens. You know, today I felt, you know, wrong. Something was wrong with me.
With Andrew Golota in the dressing room, back to you.
Well, Golota clearly disoriented. We will have much more on this bizarre bout coming up later in the show. Our analysts will look at the future, if there is one in the ring for Golota, and whether Mike Tyson will fight again.
I have to give myself, you know, heavy thought about boxing forward, you know.
Are you thinking, you're thinking about not fighting again?
Maybe, I don't know.
Andrew Golota was taken to the hospital after his interview with Al Bernstein, who joins us now. And Al, this looks like a vintage Golota performance, and that's not good.
No. You know, tonight we saw the full Monty of Andrew Golota's psychological and emotional frailties. After climbing back into this fight in the second round, after being knocked down in the first round, he simply quit on his stool. And Al Certo said even after the first round, Golota was thinking about quitting. Clearly, Andrew Golota is a man who is afraid of success, and he's a guy that cannot deal, I don't think, with the intensity of these major matches. And we saw that again here tonight, in which he again let down his fans, and I think to a great extent let down the sport.
Mike Tyson, his people rated this as a pretty positive performance. Do you agree with that?
Well, you know, Tommy Brooks, who I usually agree with, rated this performance a B for Mike Tyson. I don't think I'd rate it that high. But I will say this. Shelley Finkel, the boxing advisor for Tyson, did have it right when he said that Tyson fought within the rules. Golota did complain about some headbutts, and there may have been a few thrown in there, but it wasn't nearly as dramatic as we've seen in the past, and part of that was because Golota was guilty of a lot of holding. Tyson broke when he was supposed to, and he comported himself in a gentlemanly manner in the ring. What he didn't do is show us the hand speed and the ferocious power, though he did knock Golota down once. So I don't think the performance by Tyson was really a vintage one on his part.
What is in the future now? It's $1 million question for Mike Tyson.
Well, you know, Shelley Finkel said right now Mike Tyson is sticking to the point he made yesterday that he doesn't want to fight again. But Shelley had told us Tyson has a love-hate relationship with boxing, with the media, with the whole sport. So we'll see if he can make it just a love relationship.
We'll see if he takes a couple weeks off and reconsiders. For Al Bernstein, I'm Scott Walker. Let's send it now back to Steve in the studio.
Thanks, Scott. Tyson a perfect 37-0 all-time in non-title bouts with 33 knockouts, including 18 in the first round. These fights have lasted an average of exactly 3 rounds. When a belt is on the line, Tyson 12-3 with 10 KOs.
Well, even the ringside announcers were at a loss for words to describe Friday night's abbreviated bout between Mike Tyson and Andrew Golota. Said one to the other, what did we just witness? Whatever it was just what the heavyweight division did not need. For more, we turn to our team at the Palace, led by senior correspondent Nick Charles.
Another Mike Tyson fight, another night of frustration. But this time, the former heavyweight champion was not guilty. Tyson floored Andrew Golota near the end of the first round and made him quit after the second.
Tyson was so upset with the confounding conclusion, he refused to talk with the media. We did, though, speak with his manager and asked him to assess Tyson's performance and speculate on his plans.
He just was very disappointed. He said, you know, I wanted to do this right. He said, I showed everyone that every time the ref said back up, I backed up. The guy kept holding me. I didn't show anything. He says, you saw the composure when I walked back when I dropped him. You know, there was no problem.
Based on his performance, Shelley Finkel, what will you tell Mike Tyson in terms of planning his boxing future?
Nothing, because at this point he's still sticking that he's not fighting. So once he decides if he is fighting, then we'll decide that. But I feel at this point he needs some time off.
I'm joined now by boxing analyst Steve Farhood. Steve, I was impressed with several things Tyson did. How do you feel?
Well, Nick, while I still feel Tyson's prime was more than 10 years ago, there were a lot of things he did very well tonight. Punched out of a crouch, which gave him a lot of leverage, jabbed at times. He kept his composure the whole fight. That was impressive.
Yeah, I thought his comportment was really good. I liked the right hand. It wasn't just this dip down with the left shoulder, be very predictable, and throw the left hook. Al Certo, the trainer of Andrew Golota, said Tyson took his man's heart away, but he was infuriated, as were most people in this arena, that Golota could walk away a $3 million paycheck and just quit like that. How do you feel?
The reason Golota frustrates people is he's a very talented fighter. He has performance anxiety. That's pretty obvious. There was no shock that he quit tonight. The best he ever looked was that first Riddick Bowe fight. There was no pressure on him that night. That's why he looked so good.
This was a $50 buy for people buying it on pay-per-view. Is the public in general going to hear about this thing and perceive it as another Tyson fiasco, or are they going to give the guy his due?
Well, you have to give him a little bit of due. It wasn't Mike's fault this time, and that's almost refreshing to say. And the same people who complain about this fight, spending the money for pay-per-view, will be the first ones to buy Tyson Lewis if we should see that fight.
If we should. He's sticking to his plans to retire. Do you believe that?
Mike has said himself, what am I going to do if I don't box? Become a rocket scientist? He'll fight again.
It was too inconclusive a finish not to be that way, according to most people. For Steve Farhood, I'm Nick Charles in Auburn Hills, Michigan.
I'm Cindy Beaumont, and this is CNN. Headline Sports. Another controversial ending to a Mike Tyson fight. This time it wasn't Iron Mike's fault. Andrew Golota quit just before the third round and handed Tyson his 49th heavyweight victory.
Why did you stop after two, Andrew?
I got headbutts. I got cut in my eye. I got problem with the eye. He's on this, not dizziness, not this way. I couldn't fight anymore, I know.
ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. This is ESPN News.
Welcome, Keith Russell with James W. Stewart. As we step inside the show, we step inside the ring.
That's right, and Friday night's all right for fighting, so we start with maybe the end of Mike Tyson's career. Tyson versus Andrew Golota in a non-title heavyweight bout. Palace of Auburn Hills in Michigan. Golota and Tyson making their way into the ring. Last seconds of the first round, Tyson decks Golota with a hard right cross. Golota would stay in there, but the damage was done. You see the bleeding there from the left temple. Second round, Tyson nails Golota with a flurry, and he was just relentless, getting in close and then staying away. Uppercuts, plenty of body blows, and then the drama begins. Start of the third round, Golota pushes referee Frank Garza out of the way. Trainer Al Certa tries to force the mouthpiece into Golota's mouth, and Golota says, forget about it, I'm out of here. Fans pelt and boo Golota as he leaves the Palace, and Tyson goes on to win by a third round TKO. So Mike Tyson now 49-3 overall, including 43 by knockout. He's 37-0 with 33 KOs in non-title bouts. Andrew Golota on the flip side, 36-5 overall. Remember, he also quit in the Michael Grant fight in November of '99. With more, here's Scott Walker in Michigan.
Thank you. And this will go down as Mike Tyson's fourth consecutive win in a decision, but believe me, this will be known for what Andrew Golota did in surrendering this bout to Mike Tyson. We still do not know specifically about Mike Tyson's future. He did not speak to the media about that future. What's in Golota's future is a trip to the hospital. He did go to the hospital after this fight, but not before summing up his day in what proved to be a big understatement.
First of all, it wasn't my day today, but I got a headbutt. A referee didn't respond pretty much well as he's supposed to.
I was surprised that I thought that he would give it a better shot than what he did. Anything could happen in a fight. Mike is a tremendous puncher, as everybody knows, you know, Andrew just, I guess he thought that there was a no-win situation for him. He tried to say something about a headbutt or something, you know, but from the replay that I saw, it was clearly a right hand right on the chin.
No doubt that first right hand broke there, nothing to do with getting in close, and I think Golota was just taking too much punishment.
I had said prior to the fight, two guys are going to get in this ring tomorrow night, and one's going to have a pants on and one's going to have a skirt. I wind up with the skirt.
Al Bernstein joins me now. And Al, that was one of the kinder things that Certo said about his fighter. They seem to have given up on him. Is that the key cue for the rest of us?
Well, you know, we saw the full Monty of all the psychological and emotional frailties of Andrew Golota, and Al Certo's comment might be a little insensitive, but clearly they were very, very disappointed in what their man did, as well they should be, because he really let a lot of people down here. He had a decent second round in this fight and really was not out of this fight by any stretch of the imaginations, but clearly he's a man who's afraid of success, a guy who simply cannot deal with the emotional turmoil that goes on inside him when he's inside these major fights.
As we're looking at this, again, Mike Tyson's performance will be sort of lost in this. The Tyson people thought it was pretty good. Do you agree with that?
Well, you know, Tommy Brooks, who I usually agree with, who's a fine trainer and Mike Tyson's trainer, gave him a B. I don't know if I'd give him a B, maybe a C+. Clearly, it's not the same Tyson that we had seen even in the 3 fights previous to this. He was a little slower. He was certainly fought a more controlled pace, didn't have the real good hand speed and the aggression that we would have expected to see in this fight. But what he did do, as Shelley Finkel, his boxing advisor, pointed out, was fight a clean fight. He broke when he was told to, and despite the fact that there were allegedly a couple of headbutts in there, it was not a blatantly illegal performance by Mike Tyson. So that part was good.
When you look at his future, and this is going to be the question that people will ask until he finally decisively says what he's going to do, what do you see from him?
Well, so far today, he is sticking to what he said yesterday, that he might not want to fight again. Now, if he does, we talked to Gary Shaw, the promoter from Main Events, which is Lewis's promoter, and we talked to Danny Goosen, who's the promoter for David too, and of course, they're fighting on November 11th. Both of them said their man would love to fight Mike Tyson, and in the case of Lewis, it's a very tough thing to make happen because of differences between Showtime, which promotes Tyson, and HBO, which promotes Lewis. But Gary Shaw said they would do everything in their power to make that fight happen, and he said, and so did Dan Goosen, part of the reason is both Tu and Lewis absolutely believe they can beat Mike Tyson, and Gary Shaw said today if this Tyson fought Lewis, he would be knocked out in 1 round. Of course, he's Lewis's promoter, but still, they think they can beat him.
So they both think they can beat him. The big question right now is, will they have the chance? We will see in the next few weeks as Mike Tyson considers his future. Al Bernstein has more with Andrew Golota later in the show. But for now, we'll send it now back to J.W. Stewart.
Gentlemen, thanks very much. After Friday's fight, Tyson now a perfect 37-0 all-time in non-title bouts with 33 knockouts, including 18 of the first-round variety. These fights have lasted an average of exactly 3 rounds. When a belt is on the line, Tyson is 12-3 with 10 knockouts. And as Scott Walker mentioned, you want to stay tuned here to ESPN News, because later on in the show, Al Bernstein will speak with Andrew Golota. Everybody's questioning Andrew Golota's heart, and here's why. He quit after the second round. Mike Tyson did not speak to the media afterwards, but Andrew Golota did. He spoke with our Al Bernstein.
Andrew, I know everyone's wondering why you decided not to fight after the third round, or after the second round. Why so?
I got a problem in my eye, you know. I got a cut over my eye. I felt it, not dizziness, and I couldn't fight. That's what it is.
Some had said that you thought you were butted in that eye. Is that what you believe happened?
I didn't thought. I know that was twice. I mean, actually, it was twice or 3 times. You know, I really had a head about it. And the referee did not respond, you know, pretty much well. He didn't even warn him. Which was unbelievable, you know. Everybody says I'm the dirty fighter, you know, in this creation, you know. I don't know what happened.
How disappointing is this for you? And I don't know, how do you feel about the disappointment your fans and other people may feel?
What I can say, I just want to say sorry for all my friends, you know, who count on me. And what can I do? I have to give myself, you know, heavy thought about boxing forward, you know.
Are you thinking about not fighting again?
Maybe, I don't know.
All right, Andrew. Good luck next time, if there is a next time.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to the Saturday morning edition of SportsCenter. We'll be with you for the next hour, taking you up to the kickoff of College Game Day. But first, last night's heavyweight bout in Auburn Hills. Mike Tyson versus Andrew Golota. Anything could happen. Let's face it, these two aren't exactly known for their ring etiquette, if there is such a thing. Iron Mike said this would be his last fight. Promises, promises. I said anything could happen, but no one expected this ending to last night's fight. We start at the beginning. Andrew Golota making his way to the ring, followed by Mike Tyson at the Palace of Auburn Hills, about 16,000 on hand. Last seconds of the first round, and Tyson knocks Golota down with a hard right. Staggers him, but he would get up in return at that point. Second round, Tyson nails Golota with a flurry. Furious exchange right here in action. And then the drama begins. Start of the third, Golota pushes referee Frank Garza out of the way, then refuses to take his mouthpiece from trainer Al Serta. He says, "I quit, that's it." And fans, well, they let him have it on his way out. We think that was a Slurpee, that last little red liquid. This one goes into the books as a third-round TKO for Tyson, whose record is now 49-3 with 43 knockouts. Tyson made $10 million last night, while Golota pocketed $2.2 million for the fight.